Okay, so the format of this training is going to be half PowerPoint, half demonstration. So I'm going to begin with the PowerPoint and walk you through how the system works. And then I'm actually going to log in and demonstrate to you live all the things that we've talked about. So we're going to talk about three things today. Submitting your municipal information. So this is information that used to come on a paper form. We're going to talk about sales validation in preparation for the equalization study. And then we're going to talk about the support module, which is where you can interact directly with your DAs in an online message board. Lastly, we'll talk about how to request your account. Today is the 20th, so the system is live. We've been creating a lot of accounts this morning. And finally, we'll stop to take any questions that you might have, either via chat or we can unmute you. So the Municipal Information module, what has changed? Well, towns are going to be able to submit their local assessing staff to PVR electronically. I'm sure you remember the form that you used to get where you'd put down your lister, town clerk, all of that stuff. So you'll be able to submit all of that information electronically, and that will persist year over year. So if the people haven't changed, you don't have to update it. They will just be there, so you can only change them if you need to. You're also going to be able to track local staff's training and certification. That's completely optional. We put that in there as a feature. We frequently hear that it's tough for everyone to keep track of all the courses that they've taken and the certifications that they've earned. So that is an optional thing you can track for your municipal staff members. You're also going to be able to answer some questions from PVR digitally, and those answers are going to carry over year. So if those don't change again, you can just use last year's answers. So we'll get all the data in the system this year and then roll it into the next year, and all you'll have to do is update it. You can also upload digital documents that are requested by PVR, and we'll take a look at all of this. So taking a look at the home screen, this is what it will look like when you log in. The first thing I want to highlight is we have our jurisdiction dropdown on the top left. So if you are someone that works in multiple towns, if you're a contract assessor, so forth, we can give you access to multiple towns under one single login. You'll also notice that we have a year dropdown here. So we're going into 2022, so this is the only year that's available. But as we do have more years, you'll be able to go back and look at 2022's information. It will all be there for you in an online permanent record. So the first thing we see is municipal information. This is the first module that we're going to talk about. We're going to move on to the equalization study and then on to support. And if you can imagine, as we roll into phase 2, you're going to be seeing current use and homestead, and I'll be talking about how similarly those are going to work as we review these modules. And finally, we have your resources. So these are just handy links. You'll see this in a couple different places around the software. These are meant to just be of assistance to you. So going into the municipal information module, I want to highlight this help. So you'll see this throughout the application. This will do two things for you. It will give you a little information about the page you're on and what you should be doing. And clicking on that information icon, that blue eye, will actually bring you to a help page specific to this page that you're on. So this is the integrated help. If you're having trouble with a particular page, click on that eye and it will bring you to the help document for that page. So within municipal information, we have three different things to look at. We have your organization. So this is where you report the people that work for your town, your assessor, lister, et cetera. Town clerk will look at that. We have documentation. This is where you can upload documents to your municipal file. And questions. So PVR is going to be asking you a series of questions. It's not 20 questions, it's actually 21 questions. They're pretty straightforward though, and again, you'll be able to carry those forward through next year and just update them if they need to be. We also have our process tracker here. So this will show you when you submit your municipal information to PVR, when they pick it up and review it, and when they finalize their review. So we have our submit button here. We'll talk about that at the end, but this is how you submit and send all of your information to PVR once you have completed it. So the first section, organization. So we're asking for the same information that was on the form that you used to get in paper from PVR. So it's really just contact information for your assessor, your listers, town clerk, tax collector, treasurer, and delinquent tax collector. So Just those folks, and we do have options in the position drop-down. If you hold multiple titles, we have those available for you. So that's it. It's just contact information for those 6 positions. So just showing you how it works. This is just going into the organization section. Once again, at the top of the page, the integrated help. So giving you a little bit of indication as to what you should be doing on this page, and then the blue eye icon will get you more information about that page. So that goes straight out to help. So I do want to highlight, you'll see this throughout the application. On top of the tables, you'll see these fields. This is where you can search. So you imagine if there were 5 or 10 or 15 town employees here, searching in that name box, you'd be able to filter down to just the one you were looking for. So you'll see that on almost every table in the application. You'll always have that integrated search. The other thing I want to highlight is you have your actions menu here. So this is how you would get in and edit information about this person. So you'll also see this actions menu throughout the application. The other thing here we have is the add button. So to add a new person to your organization, you'll click the add button. You'll find this blue add button again throughout the applications when you're able to add things. So we try to keep the interfaces as common as we can. So once you learn one module, you can apply it to the next and everything will be fairly consistent. So adding personnel to your organization, this is just the add form. It's pretty straightforward. Name, information, title, etc. Fairly basic stuff. So once we've added someone, if we go into edit them, this is what it looks like. So we see we're on Patrick. Clicking that edit button lets us edit the contact information that we have. And then down here again, we have the actions menu. So this would be editing the activities. We are in the activities tab here. We also have our add button. So again, very common. And this is all optional. All we have to do is put in the people and their contact information. So this is stuff where you can track it if it's helpful to you. If it's not helpful, don't worry about it. Don't even touch it. So here we have activities. So this is meant that you can record if the person is doing commercial appraisal or doing pickups or just processing transfers or working the customer service desk, whatever the activities might be, so that you can log what that person is doing. Again, totally optional. We have certifications, so you can keep track of any certifications that this person has, any trainings that they've taken, and any property that they might own within the town. So again, all of these are optional. All we're asking for is just the contact information. This is purely meant to be helpful. And again, just highlighting here, same table everywhere. So this is the search in the table. So if you had a lot of activities and you wanted to search or filter down, you would use those search boxes accordingly. So high level of organization, all we're looking for is the contact info for those 6 positions. And it'll tell you the 6 positions in that help bar when you're in the application as well. Optional tracking is there for activities, training, and certifications and properties owned if you care to use it. If you don't care to use it, completely ignore it. So just circling back, because we've covered a lot of the important aspects of the program that are going to surface over and over again in all the different modules. So just to review, we've got that help. You'll see it on most of the pages. So you've got your context clue of what you should be doing there, the information icon to get more help in the help documentation. We have our table that we use everywhere with the searches at the top and the filters. And then our actions menu to edit things within the table. And our add button down at the bottom to add new records. So all of this will remain common. One other thing I want to highlight is the breadcrumb navigation at the top left. So this shows you we are in Addison, we're in the Municipal Information module, and we're within organizations. So this is where we add our personnel. So if you want to go up one level, just click on Municipal Information. If you want to go all the way up to the Addison homepage, just click on Addison. So you'll see that throughout the application. This is a really helpful navigational tool. You can go up one level or all the way up to your municipal homepage. So you'll see that throughout the application as well. So the next section is documentation. So this is where you can upload files that will become part of your digital municipal record. So we'll take a look at this. So the first thing is if you upload multiple documents, you can download them all. We also have our actions menu here. This is where you would upload documents. And you'll see here, these are the various documents that you can upload. Here you see whether they're required and whether or not you've done anything with them. You'll find that all the document uploads are not required in this section. So if they don't pertain to you, you do not need to upload it. The other thing you'll see on documentation and on questions, which we'll look at next, is the review status. So you'll be able to see if the state has reviewed your upload and if they have any comments about it. That's going to be the same way with questions. Just looking at uploading a document, so we would use that actions menu to get into upload our documents. You would browse for the document you wanted to upload, just like an email attachment. Once you'd selected the file, you'd click upload, and then it'll appear in the table down below. You can use your actions menu to delete it if you uploaded something erroneously. One thing I did want to highlight is you can upload multiple files here. So one of the things that's being requested and is not required are your municipal meeting minutes. And I know some scanners, you scan them and every page becomes a separate file. So if you wind up with 5 pages, you can upload 5 files. There's no need to combine them or worry about that. So you can do multiple files per upload here. Clicking complete completes that task there for uploading. And again, none of these are required for this year. So if it doesn't apply to you, you don't need to worry about it at all. So the next piece are questions. So the answers to your questions can be reused each year, and this is meant to just provide a knowledge base about your municipality. So taking a look at inside of the questions module, we have our list of questions, and again, 21 questions. They're pretty brief. These are the first couple. What are the hours? So using your actions menu gets you into edit the question, and we can see whether or not it's required and whether or not you have answered it. So in order to submit, all of the required questions have to be answered. So that's one of the checks there that won't let you submit unless you've answered the required questions. And then we see here whether or not the state has reviewed them. So you'll see throughout the application, we try to give you a view into what the state's doing. So you can see that they have processed the information that you've worked hard to submit. So taking a look at answering the questions, and again, this will be accessed through that actions menu. The question will appear up here. What are your town clerk's hours? We put in the answer here, 12 to 1 on Fridays. And notice we have this use prior answer button. Of course, we don't have a prior year because this is our first year, but next year when you do, you'll be able to just click use prior answer and it will put in your answer from last year and you'll be able to move forward with just one click. We also have save and next here, so this will save your progress and move on to the next question. And I should highlight, as you go through, all of this will be saved, so you don't have to do everything at once. You can come back and finish stuff as you have time and submit it once you are completed with everything. So the municipal information module, this is kind of backing up to the high level. For organization, you just have to enter at least 2 personnel. We know in a lot of towns, people wear many hats. So you might have 2 people filling those 6 positions. That's totally fine. If you only have 1 person, let us know. We can bypass that for you. But we figured there should be at least 2 people in every town. If not, definitely let us know and we can work around that. Documentation, again, this is where you can upload the documents. These are all not required at this point, so you can take a look at them. And if they apply to you, you can upload. The last bit is the questions. Just answer all of the PVR required annual questions and you'll be good to go. Clicking submit will send that off to the state. And I'll also highlight this PowerPoint is available on PVR's website and will be posted to our support page this afternoon, as will the recording of this training. So you'll see your submit button right up here. That's what sends everything off to the state. We also have our reports drop down. You're going to see this in many parts of the application. This is where you get reports specific to the section of the application that you're in. So in this case, this will give us a report of everything that we've just submitted. So all of those people that we put into the organization, it'll give us a listing of any documentation that we've uploaded and the answers to all of the questions. Once PVR finishes their review, they actually have the ability to give you comments about your answers to questions. So you'll be able to see those on that report as well. The last piece here are your assessor comments. So once PVR completes your review, you'll be notified via email. and you'll be able to go in and post any comments that you have about their review. So it just gives you kind of a little bit of feedback into their review process, and you can look at what they said to you and respond back here, and then that becomes part of the municipal information. All right, so let's get into the application and actually do a live demo. So bear with me for one moment. I'm going to have to stop my PowerPoint, switch over to a web browser. So just one moment here as I switch up everything. Okay. All right, so all I've done now is logged into the application. So we do have our drop down here. Again, if you're in multiple jurisdictions, you can have access to them with your single login. We have our years here, so you'll be able to look at prior years once we have some. And I'm just going to show you, this is an application that is responsive. So as I size down, if I go to maybe tablet size, you'll see the left-hand menu becomes this upper hamburger menu. If I size down even further, things just keep flowing. So if you were on a very small device, you'd be able to use this on your phone. I doubt anybody's going to be clamoring to validate sales on their phone, but if you do need to get into the system, you will be able to on any mobile device. All right, so let's take a look at our municipal information. I'm just going to switch over, and this is our test server, so none of this is real. This is all just test data here, so I'm not actually doing anything in Bolton. So I'm going to go into municipal information. I've got my three things that we're looking for. Notice I have my integrated help up here as well. So I'm going to go into organization, and notice it's telling me the people that we're looking for. With our help icon here, I'll click on our help, and we're in organization management here. So integrated help for the page that we're on. And we'll give you our support information, email, telephone, etc. as well, so you can get live support for this. Well, let's just go through. So all we need to do is add our people. So we'll click add here. We'll put in my information, a note up here that providing activities, certifications, and training are optional. So we'll go ahead and click save. Now I've added a person. So again, using my actions menu, you'll see this all throughout the application. I'll go to manage. Here's where I have my activities, my certification, my trainings, and my properties that are owned. So again, these are totally optional. I think certifications or trainings are pretty handy to track within the application. So we could add a certification. Maybe we have a CAE from IAAO, the date that we got it. We did very well. You can either save and new or just save. So if you have multiple certifications, a lot of alphabets after your name, you can add them all at once. Same thing with trainings. If you'd like to add a training, go right here to our add drop down, add a training. Maybe we took IAAO course 101 today. We can put in our notes if we had any CEUs, maybe 5 CEUs. We can save that, and now we have our training. So we can go in and edit this. We can go in and delete it, again, driving from that actions menu. And once again, you'll see these search bars at the top of the table. So if we had a lot of training, if we've been at this for quite a while, you could search through and find the particular course that you were looking for if you needed to update it. The last piece is properties. So this is where you can attach properties that this individual owns. Again, not required, but is available for you. So training, certifications, and activities, all just things so that you can track information about your municipal personnel if you care to. So we'll hop out again using my breadcrumb navigation, going back up one more level to municipal information. We have our documentation. So again, these aren't required, but if you were going to upload your 308, say, we could just go in, browse for the file, click upload, and now we have our file uploaded. If we wanted to delete it or remove it, you'd simply delete. If you want to download it, you download it, and then we can just complete our task. We also have this download all button. So if you uploaded a bunch of stuff, you could download it right here. You can also download it within the documentation itself. So our last piece is questions. So this is a pretty brief module. This is meant to be kind of just a light entry into the software. doing some kind of basic things, answering some questions, providing some contact information to kind of get a feel for working with the application. Once you know how to use this module, all the other modules are going to work the same. So this is kind of the learning module to get you familiar with the software, and it will just continue to be this way. So we see here, we have some required questions and we haven't answered them. So we're just going to go in and answer them. Once again, using our actions menu, we'll go in, what are your clerk's hours? I don't know, 8 to 9 Mondays. We're not open very much. Save and next. So now we've answered that one question. We can just cancel out of this. That one question is answered. We can come back later. If we don't submit, we'll be able to come back and edit this question if we need to. So if we just go in and edit, we have our answer here. We can copy and paste if it's the same hours for everybody. Treasurer's hours, delinquent tax collector's hours, etc. Lister's hours. We're all only open for an hour on Monday. So again, you'll have 21 questions on the real application. These are the first 4, so they're pretty basic. And once again, you have that used prior year. So next year, you'll be able to pull in that information if it hasn't changed. So trying to eliminate any duplicate data entry, but still get a pretty good knowledge base about the municipalities. So that's really it. Just 3 quick sections here, municipal information. This is going to give the state a really good database about what the towns are up to. And this is something that will be, I think, a really valuable asset to everybody. So that is our municipal information. Again, this is a great place to start and just kind of get your feet wet. You can't really screw anything up. It's just answering questions and giving information about people. So a nice place to start, pretty low impact. And I'm just going to switch back over to my PowerPoint here. Brace yourselves for one moment as I switch over. Okay. And we'll begin the screen share again. And let's go into our next module here. So this is a little bit more serious of a module, the Equalization Study module. So here's where you're going to verify your sales. Now, this is going to be very similar to what you did in my VTAX. So you're going to be verifying the sale price, the listed value, if there are special circumstances that indicate that the sale is not an arm's length transaction and shouldn't be used in the ratio study. You'll verify the category code. You'll verify if there were personal property or concessions, and verify the acreage. And finally, add any lister comments that you have. I did hear in a couple of the trainings that the MyVTax didn't have a long enough field for the comments, so we have lengthened that field so you can write as much as you'd like about each sale. So just to walk through the process of importing the PTTR records. So first of all, the process of filling out the PTTR, going through the clerk sending it back to the state, none of that will be changed. What's different is we are getting that PTTR information from the state and loading it into VT PIE. So everything before your sales validation is unchanged. I should also note your DAs, your district advisors, have been doing a lot of testing and identified that we didn't actually get all of the information that we needed to off the PTTR. So they identified that as an issue because they want you to have everything in one spot. So we're working with the folks at tax, and we're getting the rest of that information. We expect to have that in by about February. So you will still be able to log into my VTax and get at those PTTRs if you need to. But moving forward, we will have all of that information. So as you're looking at a sale, you can view the whole PTTR within the application. So happy that your DAs were looking out for you, and we're going to get that information to one spot. So we get the PTTR data. We then link it to the grand list. So we have all the grand list data that you've submitted to the state. And it's the August 15th submission we're using. So those values current to April 1st of last year. So we'll link that PTTR to your grand list. This does 2 things. It lets us update the listed value with the official listed value from the grand list. We update the acreage and the category code. So you'll see in the application, we maintain what was on the PTTR, but we update it with that official grand list submission. So you can see both of those. And of course, you can override them as well. So we'll present those sales to you. You'll go through the local verification process, and then it moves on to the state verification process. And the difference here, it's a fairly big one, is municipalities would validate sales in My VTAX, and then the sales would go offline into an access database, and your DAs would work there. So when you would verify them, the sales essentially get disconnected and go off into a separate database. So if your DAs had any questions, they had to kind of go outside of their system, call you, email you. That won't be the case anymore. So you'll be able to look at the same sales. You'll have a message board for questions related to each sale. We'll take a look at all of that. And I do want to highlight, we do have a process for reappraisals. If you're a town that's doing a reappraisal, you won't have to enter all of your values. We're going to hold a separate training about that just to keep this training a little bit more simple. So all the stuff that we've been talking about with respect to reappraisals is still there. We're just going to hold a separate training for folks that it pertains to. So just a little bit about special circumstances. So one of your primary jobs as you're validating these sales is to determine if the sale is an arm's length transaction. So when we say arm's length, we mean a sale between two or more unrelated and unaffiliated parties that are acting independently and in their own self-interest. The second part is the involved parties should have equal bargaining power and information, leading them to agree upon a fair market price. So that's the only fair thing to compare to your assessed value, right? We want an actual sale that gets to the fair market price because it's arm's length. So of course you guys have your special circumstances, reasons why sales aren't arm's length and should not be considered in your ratio study. These are the same codes you're familiar with. So things like a family sale, corporate stockholder, foreclosure, and estate sale, circumstances that would mean that you didn't pay what we would consider fair market price. So, you know, a father selling to his son, depending on the family, might be above or below market price. If I was selling my office to another company that I owned, that probably wouldn't be market price. Of course, foreclosures and estate sales. So these codes haven't changed. We will have some information that we're asking based on which special circumstances code you choose. For example, if you chose estate sale, we'd just like to know if the estate was on the market or not. So each of these, and we'll see this in the application, as you choose one of these codes, it will give you a clue as to what additional information you need to put with this special circumstances code so that the state knows exactly what you're talking about. On the last one there, large change post-assessment. So this is the scenario where on April 1st, you had just a house and they started building a barn in May, finished it in August, and then sold the property in, say, October with that barn. So you were not assessing a barn, but that is what sold. So that is not an appropriate sale to use. So you would use that code, large change post-assessment, and the system will prompt you, what was the change? So you would just say, the change was a barn was added that I didn't assess as of April 1st. So let's take a look at the application. So when you go in to validate your sales, you are going to see a table of sales, the same table that we're familiar with. It's got those searches on the top. And I'm highlighting here this drop down because this is going to be very similar for current use. This is going to be similar for homestead. Anytime we're giving you a queue of things that need to be dealt with, we're going to show you a table that is filtered to show unverified. So this is your work queue. Any sales that aren't verified will be in this table when you hop in. Once you verify them, this table will be empty. You can use that drop down and switch over to view your verified sales, and that's where they will live. So again, this will work very similarly with current use, with homestead. You'll just get a listing of things that you need to review. You'll also see here that we have a listing of questions. So once you submit this to the state, they're going to actually go through, and if they have any questions about the sale, they're going to ask them and send the sales back to you. So you'll get all the sales will be returned that have questions. You'll see that they have questions because it'll show you right here, and you can go in and answer them, on a message board style format. And we'll take a look at that as well. Our last column here is the span. So as you know, the PTTR has the span on it. We use that to link to those grand list records. You'll notice the bottom two records here do not have a span. So that means we were not able to successfully link it to a grand list record. This can be either there was no span provided, the span was incorrect, whatever the reason. You'll have to take a little bit of extra action here to deal with those sales, and I'll show you how to do that. I will say our match rate is extremely high. It's just a little over 1% that we're not able to match, which is statewide right now, a couple of hundred sales. So there should only be a couple, if any, in your jurisdiction that you have to deal with this on, and we'll see exactly how you do that. We also have a reports drop down here. So this is where you can get a list of your sales. So export all of your sales out to Excel, which I know is a big feature that everybody likes. You're also going to have a resale report. So it's basically just going to group the sales by span so that you can see properties that have sold multiple times during the period. So again, that reports dropdown will be throughout the application. So let's go into a particular sale and take a look at how it looks. So here's our sales overview. We have a couple of tabs across the top. We have our properties tab. So that's where you'll find the grand list record that is linked. We'll have the attachments tab. So you can actually attach things to this sale. So if you wanted to attach the MLS listing from our example of somebody that built a barn, you could attach the building permit for the barn just to substantiate that. Then we have our questions tab. So this is the message board where if your DA has questions about the sale, they can ask it, you can respond, and that will live on with the sale. So as we know that the 2 years move forward into next year's study, so those questions will move forward as well. So we'll keep a complete history about that transaction. So first off here, we have a few sections of the screen and I want to explain it to everybody. So we've got our PTTR information. So this is the information that we got from the PTTR, as you might expect. So we've got a reference number. So we just assign a sequential ID to each sale. It restarts every year. It doesn't mean anything. It's not intelligent at all. It's just meant to have a shorthand that if you want to talk to somebody about the sale, you can say sale 1 and not, book 103, page 93 to 98. So purely a shorthand number there. We'll show the buyer and seller along with their mailing addresses. And then in the box below, we have our grand list information. So this is the information from that grand list record that we have attached. So this is independent of the PTTR. This is what you have in your grand list. Then we have our verification panel over here, and it has a few columns that I want to talk through. So first of all, what we're looking at here, we have the real property sale price. We have the listed value, the prior year listed value, and that's where we'll get into the reappraisal. Of course, if you're not doing a reappraisal, we're going to use that prior year listed value for the ratio study and equalization. You have your special circumstances code, if any. You have your category code, and then your total sale price, your personal property, concession, and your acreage. Now, this is all from the PTTR. So this is not editable. This is just what was written on the PTTR, and we're just showing it to you. We then have a lister column. By default, the lister agrees with the PTTR. So if this information is correct, you don't really have to take much action. I'll show you exactly what you have to do. The column that's missing here, you see that blank space, that's the states column. So we maintain 3 versions of this information: what was filed on the PTTR, what the lister edited, and then what the final values for the state were. And by default, those all agree, but we do track all 3 of them. So we have our verify button up here. So this is how we verify our sale. You'll also notice a little blue button. That gets you right to the next sale. So you can stay right on the screen and zip through your sales pretty quickly. So let's take a look at what happens when we verify. So if we click on the verify button, it's going to bring up this window here where we can edit. And you'll notice the real property sale price is grayed out. You can't edit that. You have to edit the total sale price, the personal property, and the concession. So that real property sale price is the total sale price minus personal property minus concession. So we have our listed values here that you can adjust if you need to. We also have the acreage that you can adjust if you need to. And again, these will be all set for you. So it should be a corner case that you're going in and adjusting these. But we do know you need the ability to override. So that's there for you. So going down to our bottom panel here, a couple things to look at. You notice we've selected the special circumstances code for an abutter sale, and it's telling us right above, please provide the span of the abutting property. So it's giving us a little bit of a clue of what we want in that comment section. We also have the category code, so you can override that if you need to. And clicking verify verifies the sale. So it's as simple as that. With a lot of these sales, you shouldn't really have to do much more than adjust the special circumstances code if it's not an arm's length transaction. Click verify, and then that sale is verified. So once you do verify the sale, you can click submit to send the sale off to the state, or you cannot. If you're not done with it, don't click submit and just use that blue arrow to go to the next sale. So we do encourage you to get your sales to the state as quickly as you can so they can get started on their work. Remember, they have the 260 plus towns worth of sales that they need to work through on their end. So the sooner they can get a jump start, the better for sure. So now what about the corner case? Remember I said we have that maybe 1% of sales that we're not able to locate the grand list. So when you come to one of those sales, you won't see a verify button. You'll see this hyperlink that says, please attach the sale property on the properties tab. So you can either click that hyperlink or go to the properties tab. They both take you to exactly the same place. And our action here is just to search for the property by the span number, by the owner, by the address. So we'd click the search, we'd get our results, pick the correct property, and click add. We do have a bypass if you can't find the property, but the property doesn't exist anymore. We can bypass that with just a quick button click. So if you run into that, we can run through that. So now if we've gone through and verified all of our sales, using that drop down again on our sales homepage, you switch over to verified and you'll see all the sales that you've verified. Once you're done with your verification, you can release all of your sales to PVR. So this button will send every sale that you have already verified off to PVR. So once you've wrapped up your work, you click that and it gets sent over to the state. We like to think of sales like footballs. It starts with you guys. When you're done, you pass the ball to the state. So once you pass the ball to the state, this table will be empty for you. All the sales will be with the state. You won't have anything in your work queue. When they ask questions, they'll show right back up. That won't be for a little while once they get reviewing your stuff. If you do release to the state and you need one or all of your sales back, you can ask for them back. That's the beauty of using the same system. They can send them right back to you, either one or as many as you need. You'll always be able to get access to all of your sales through the report though. So the Excel export has all the fields. It has the local fields, the state fields, the PTTR. So you can always get access to all of the data. Again, it's just like a football. You start, you pass it to PVR, they do their work and send it back if need be. All right, so let's do a quick demonstration. Once again, bear with me as I switch over my display here, get my PowerPoint down and the application up. Okay. Let's reshare my screen. Thank you for your patience. All right, so once again, we're in test server Bolton. Let's go to our EQ study and our sales verification is where we're gonna go. I do wanna highlight, we have a workflow tracker here so that you can get a little bit of a purview into what the state is doing. As with all taxes, we favor transparency. So we have one of our 99 sales that have been verified. None of them have been released to the state, and the state hasn't reviewed zero and has zero to review because we haven't sent them. So you get a little bit of a purview into what's going on at the state for transparency's sake. But let's go into sales validation. So here we have the sales that we have available to validate. Notice we have a number of them here that don't have any span. So I put these here on purpose so that I could demonstrate them to you. We have our help up here. It lets you know that you're looking at your unverified sales. We can switch over to verified sales. We've got the one that we verified there. We could release it if we'd like to. Or we could go over to verified. We also have our reports here. So we can take a look at our sales summary report or our resale report. These are just big Excel exports of all of the data that we have. So clicking this will download the report. You can open it right up in Excel. So let's go in and take a look at a sale. So here we have our screen. Once again, a little bit of integrated help. We've got our information from the PTTR. We've got the information from our grand list. We also have our map information. So we're going to be releasing the statewide GIS parcel map within the next week. We're going to start setting up training so you folks can get into that as well. So each of these sales, if we can link it to your grand list, you can actually view on a map. So this should be a pretty helpful feature for folks. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in here. And you only have to sign in once. The session lasts for quite some time. So this is bringing us right to that property on the map. And we'll have a separate training about the GIS map. The Municipal Advisory Committee, just before the holidays, was kind enough to review it for us and give us some information about how that might be helpful to your local municipal users. So you can get right to that parcel, which is kind of cool to get some spatial context to the sale. Linking it to that grand list record, we're actually geolocating the sale. So it's kind of cool. So once again, we've got what came in on the PTTR. We've got what came in. The lister agrees with the PTTR by default. So if we're just kind of reviewing things, we can see, okay, 15.19 acres, that agrees with what the grand list says. The lister agrees by default. So all we have to do here is click verify. It's going to bring up our verification menu. We can go here. We can pick special circumstances if we need to. Maybe it's an abutter sale. It tells me it wants the span of the abutting property. We'll put that in. We can override the category code if we need to. Again, the standard business cases, this should all be okay. And you're just choosing whether or not this is an arm's length transaction. So we'll click verify. We get our submit button now. So if we want, we can send this right off to the state. If you're done with this, you're not going to touch it again. Click submit, it goes off to the state. If you're not done with it, don't click submit. Just click next. Notice here we also have our red X. So that's just letting us know that this sale is excluded. We can see here that I just excluded it. The PTTR did not give any reason that it should be excluded. So we keep track of each of this separately. So you'll see that now shows that it's excluded. If we go over here, we have our different sale. Wow, right on the money, 71,000. So we can go in. It's a great sale. One click, move to the next. So you should be able to go through this very quickly. If you don't click submit, it's not going to submit it to the state. And if I go back out here, let me go to my sales overview and switch back over to verified. Now all my verified sales that we just worked through are right in this table for us. And clicking release sends them over to the state. So once we click release, that football is passed, the state has the ball, and it's their turn to run with it. So when you're done, click release, that'll send it over to the state for you. Once again, let's go to unverified, and I want to show you a couple different things. So here, we weren't able to find the correct property. Maybe because it was in Fake Town. I don't know. So it's not going to let you verify it because it wants you to know which property you're talking about. So we'll go over to the Properties tab, click Add Property. Smiths are my favorite example. I'm just picking randomly. Obviously, you would choose the correct property here. So it's linked it, and it actually updated our assessed value based on that grand list information. So obviously, I didn't pick the correct property. It doesn't look like I did anyway. Now we have our map button. Now we know our grand list information. We've got 0 acreage here because this is a mobile home I picked, I guess. That disagrees with what they have on the PTTR. So you get good cross-reference information here. We can go in and verify this. We could remove this property if this was not the correct property that came in. Maybe they put the wrong span. Maybe you linked the wrong property. So we can remove that if we need to and add another property. You can also add multiple properties. If this was a multi-parcel transaction, it'll just add up that value for you and set that. We also have the attachments. I mentioned that. So we'll click Add Attachment. Again, building permit maybe. The date that you're uploading it. Pick the file that we want. Put in notes if you want. And notes are very helpful. Remember, the state's looking at quite a bit of information. So if you're uploading something that's not completely obvious why you're doing it, a little note is helpful, just so that they know why you're sending it to them. Questions we'll talk about after. This is where your questions will be at the message board. I'll show you that in the context of the support module because it's exactly the same. We see our little paperclip icon here that lets us know that there is an attachment. If there's a question, you'll also see a red exclamation point here. So That's all you have to do if your sale does not have the correct property. If the property doesn't exist, we'll have a button that you can work around that as well, just saying the property, you're not able to locate the property that's sold. So again, we can move through these very quickly. We can go back here as well. Clicking the verify if we're not making any changes goes very quickly, and then we can submit that to the state. So sales verification is meant to be very quick for you. Again, unverified sales are your work queue. Verified sales are the ones that you've already done. I released the one. We can release the rest of these. So now it sent them all off to the state. And again, you can get them back if you need them. So don't worry about that. So that's validating sales. I just kind of want to highlight, when you go into the current use module, you're going to have a list of current use records that you haven't reviewed. When you go into Homestead, you're going to have a list of Homestead records that you haven't reviewed. If you go into the record, it's obviously not going to have sales information. It's going to have Homestead information. It's going to have current use information. It'll be linked to a property. You'll be able to have attachments. Our long-term goal with current use is to get those maps up here as attachments. Lister comments are going to be questions. So you'll have this message board. I'm going to show you that next, how that works. So it's meant to be very, very similar throughout the application. Of course, we're dealing with property tax, so everything has a property. There's usually documents that are attached that are helpful. And then the message board about the sale, about the current use record, about the homestead declaration, that you can go back and forth with the state, and this will all be logged in one central location. One thing I do want to highlight, this is not meant to be the end-all be-all of your interactions with the state. This is just a tool to help you do your work with PVR and help them get their work done. This is not meant to supplant emailing your advisor or calling them on the phone or any of that sort of thing. This is just meant to help. So don't feel like you're confined to the system, that you can't call your advisor anymore. This is just meant to be a way to facilitate getting the work done, not meant to replace your relationship or your outside communication with your advisor. So once again, all your progress is saved here. If I back out, go back in, all my sales are still verified, waiting for me. I sent these all away. My unverified sales are waiting. I still have work to do. So again, that's how you'll work through sales. It's meant to be very similar throughout the rest of the application. So if you imagine more modules showing up here as we go through the subsequent phases, you'll be able to see how things get pretty similar. All right, so I'm going to switch back over to my PowerPoint. We're just about done here. Thank you for bearing with me through this training. I'm just going to get the PowerPoint back up here, and then we'll break for some questions here. I know that there are some in the chat. I've seen them. We will get to them. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen now. We're going to go through a couple more screens of the support module. So this is totally optional. This is just a message board where you can ask questions of your advisor. That's really all it is. And again, not meant to supplant calling them on the phone. Just a place where if you have a question that you really want to get a good documented answer, keep it in the system, not have it be trapped in your email. We find a lot of the times throughout the country, people in the assessors and listers office come and go. People at the state come and go. And a lot of good information gets trapped within individuals' emails, individuals' voicemails. So this is meant to be, if you want to ask a question and have it kind of documented that this is the answer, you can use the support tab to ask that question. And this is a distinction. This does not come to Axiomatic. We have our own separate support desk. We'll talk about when you use us. It's basically if you're having technical problems with the software. If you have process questions, which special circumstances code should I use? Is this a valid sale? Contiguous parcels, all that sort of stuff where I'm completely useless. This gets you a conduit to your DA so that you can ask them about that. So going into the module, once again, we have our breadcrumbs. You'll see that throughout the application. We have our actions menu. So this is a question thread that we have. And once again, that create new button down at the bottom. So we try to keep everything as consistent as we can. And going into our thread here, we just have a message board. So this is exactly the same message board style that you're going to see for your sales, for your current use, for your homestead decks. So date stamped, who the user was and what was said, and that will just live on with each of those work items. So again, trying to be as consistent as we can, and I'm just going to show you the support module just really quickly, then just a couple more slides and we'll get some questions. Okay, and just reshare my screen here. So support, we'll just go into support. We don't have any open support right now. We'll create a new topic, contiguous parcels, to merge or not to merge. Do I have to? So now we have our question that's gone off to our DA. We can view it. Here's our message board. You can reply back to your own questions and save it, and it will put your reply here. So your DA will get this notification, go in, reply to your question. You'll get a notification that the reply is there. You can delete it if you don't like, if you didn't mean to ask the question. If we go back out, this will just live on. So you'll get a stream of support topics here that you'll be able to search through. So if you want to look at all of your contiguous parcels questions, you can go and filter down. Again, this is using that filter we talked about. You can remove the filter if you want as well. So it's just a quick tutorial of support, again, using my breadcrumbs to back out. You don't have to do anything in support. So if you don't feel like using it, absolutely don't feel like you need to. It is not at all required. Switch back over to PowerPoint here, just a couple more slides, and I'll open it up for questions. So recommendations for success. I would start with the municipal information. It's pretty straightforward. It will give you a good feel for the application. It's meant to be, very low stress. Just go in and answer a couple questions, provide some contact info, send it off. Real quick win here as you start to get familiar with the software. Then move on to sales validation. Like I said, we have all those sales loaded up from those PTTRs, meant to be pretty quick and easy for you. And just remember the key program features. So number one, you have that breadcrumb navigation on the top left. Number two, you have that integrated help with that information icon. And number three, you have the actions menu. So that little actions button with the down caret to the left of your items in the table. So those are kind of the three things you need to keep in mind as you're using this application, kind of tips for success. So next steps. You received an email from Nella this morning. So today's go live day, 1:20. We are flooded with requests. So if you haven't gotten an email with your user account, we're working on it. We got a pretty big list, so we're excited that everybody's raring to go with this. So there is a request webpage. That's the link there in the middle, request.vtpi.org. So if you go there, that's what's in Nella's email. So you can go there, submit that form, and request access to your town. Once you do that, you'll receive an activation link from support@axiomnh.com. So that is our official email. And when you do password resets, anything like that, that will be the email it comes from. So if you see that, you know that that is us. Just one more slide here and we'll open it up for questions. So we have that help material integrated throughout the application with that I at the top of every page. There's also a help icon on the left of the primary menu. So you can get to the general help. That's where you'll find things like help on getting your account set up. We're also recording training sessions. So every training session we do will be recorded. This is our third training. So this is the one we're recording. I got to get some of the kinks out first, a couple typos in the PowerPoint, et cetera. So you'll have access to those on the support page. And you have two sources of help. So you have Axiomatic, and our support information is on the top right there. So you can go to our webpage, support@axiomnh.com. You'll scroll to the bottom because Vermont lands at the bottom of the list alphabetically, but you'll see the Vermont PIE listed right down at the bottom there. And again, clicking help in the software will bring you right to that support. You can also email support@axiomnh.com, or call our support line for live help. We also have, of course, your district advisors. So if you have process questions, again, if you don't know what to do with contiguous parcels, you have a question about a homestead, your district advisor at PVR is still the resource for that. If you ask my support staff any of that, they're not going to be able to help you. They do not know those answers. So our support staff is meant for if you're having problems with the application. What I like to say is if you know what you want to do, but you can't seem to make the application do it, that's Axiomatic support. If you don't know what you should be doing, that's your PVR district advisor. Also be happy to take any training feedback you have. That's my personal email. If anything could be made clearer or if you have any suggestions, I'd be happy to take those and incorporate them into the training so that we can make this as useful as possible for all the residents. So I'm just going to go ahead here and